Welcome to Sapphire. This is an introduction on the Sapphire 1 vendor inquiry. If we want to select a vendor, we've got three distinctive modes that we can select a vendor from. We can select it from the accounts mode, and we select payables, and we can go to a vendor inquiry, and we can drop into a vendor. Or alternatively, we can go to inventory mode, we can go to purchases, and we can go to vendor inquiry, and we can view a vendor from the inventory mode. And then lastly, we can go into job project, and we can select the resources. We select inventory, and we can select the costs in job projects and select a vendor inquiry, and same functionality. So if we close out of here and we go back to accounts mode, now the modes, we have 8 distinct modes in the Sapphire 1 application. Those 8 modes can be driven by the F keys. So we can go F1, it will take us to the accounts mode. F2 will take us to the inventory mode. F3, job projects. F4, assets. F5, payroll. F6, management. F7, utilities. And F8 to the workbook. So we go back to F1, accounts mode, and we select the payables, and we go into vendor inquiry. We can then go and select a vendor. Now we've got the toolbar up here. Once we go into a vendor inquiry, the toolbar will change. So we go into a vendor inquiry here, the toolbar's changed, and we can go and highlight that particular vendor. So I've got the ability to modify the vendor by selecting the modify icon, or I can select the look icon. Alternatively, I can double click. Now the double click can be set to look or modify depending on your user preference and how you set up the user. In this case, it's selected to, this particular user is selected to double click modify. We go into the modify vendor, and we're presented with a number of pages. Each one of these pages, we have an F key. We have that up on the Sapphire 1 blog with the keyboard shortcuts, and we can F key down through these. So if we go F2, more details, F3, custom, F4. So we can simply go through all the F keys and get at all the various pages. And we just go back to F1 here. In the vendor inquiry, we've got the vendor inquiry here. We can go in and look at the vendor. So we've got a vendor ID, which is an alphanumeric. We've chosen only to use alpha for this particular vendor. And then we've got a name, which is highlighted here, AJ White & Sons. And then we've got an area. Simply, you can create your own areas. In this case, we've got a couple set up here. So we go to city. And then we've got class. So in here, I can type an at, and I can go and select the particular class I want. So in this case, we'll go and select the clothing manufacturer. For example, if I wanted to, I could link a vendor to a particular rep if I so chose. And I've got a risk rating that I can go and set. And there's lots of reasons why we may want to use a risk rating on a vendor. We might be ISO certified, and we may use that as part of our ISO certification. Multi-company, we've got a 10 alphanumeric ID for company ID, and I can set a company ID for this particular data file and have multi-company. We've also got multi-department, so I can run as many departments as I like. And I've got job projects, so I can do a search there. And I can go and, for example, here and say I want to link that to a particular project. If I chose not to, I can simply just delete that and go. And whoops, just do that again. And go here. And I won't select a particular project and leave it as blank. We've also got the ability here to go and add documents. So by clicking on the paperclip, I can go and select something from the desktop. So we're going to select a particular document from the desktop, and we'll select that particular document, and it's gone and added that document. And now you'll notice that the paperclip is turned from red to green, and it's told me I've got one document attached now. We can add unlimited documents into a vendor file, and for that fact, any table we can add documents to, whether it's payroll, HR, asset management, inventory, job projects, whatever it may be. And of course, I can access a specific document page and run version management on my documents as well. And I can access that by clicking on the paperclip. I've got my postal and physical address, as we saw in the client inquiry, where I had the screen zoomed up a lot closer in. It's different screen resolution. I've got my client inquiry, and in this case it's mirrored over here in the vendor inquiry postal and physical address. I can click on the physical, take me to my mapping, Google Maps in this case, and I've got the main phone number, email address and URL. By clicking on those, it'll go and respectively open my browser or open the email package that I'm using. In this case, I've got a contact here, so I want to double click on the particular client here, so a particular vendor inquiry. So I go in and go to the vendor inquiry, and I can double click on Jane, and I could go in and make some notes on Jane. Alternatively, if I'm running the softphone technology with Sapphire One using Splicecom, if I click on that icon, it will actually prompt a phone call out from my Sapphire One application. I'm not connected to the softphone technology with my demo, and it'll go and make my phone call for me. And I can do that out through any type of phone line, whether it be a SIP trunk or PSDN, ISDN line, a TIPIC connection, or whatever type of connection that you're running your softphone or phone technology through. We've also got the ability to incorporate MailChimp, which is, if you go to the Sapphire One blog, you'll see we've got a blog up there on MailChimp that's incorporated into Sapphire One. If we send emails out to our vendors, we can keep a log file of that within the MailChimp campaign. If we green tick that now and come back, we're back to our page one. We've got the ability to zoom that out to full screen, so we can go and look at all our contacts for that particular vendor. If we come down now to page 2, we've got the tax number, or the ABN if you're in Australia. We've got a tax code, so we can go and set a tax code or a tax rate. So depending on what your rate, which tax jurisdiction you're in, whether you're 15% or 10%, whatever you may be set, you can go and set that for that particular tax jurisdiction. You've got the GL default code over here, so you can set a GL default code for that particular vendor if you so wish. Once again, it's just simply select the particular GL default code, and we might want to put that to general fees, for example, so we can link that to general fees. We've got the user defined field here, and we've got the additions and deductions, general messages, so we could add a general message. We come down here and we've got a custom screen, so we can go and set up a custom screen here, and I've got the ability to go and rename each one of these custom screens. So one I've renamed here, the VE Alpha 120, I've renamed that, and AIM Transport, I've renamed that as well. So you as a user has the ability to do that in the master defaults. Current balances, I can go and look at the current balances for that particular vendor, so we can go and look at what the current balance is. FX balances, so if we're dealing with a particular vendor and we may pay them in euros or US dollars, so we want to go and look at that in that particular currency. And then I've got my credit control window, which shows me my credit control window. Once again, anything that's underlined, or by clicking on it, it'll go and show me those transactions by that particular field. We've got the ability to open the invoice, so if I click on a particular invoice, I can open the invoice, I can print or email the invoice, I can look, I can retrieve, link, load, reload, statements, allocations, I can do a find, I can open an inquiry. And open inquiry, simply click on the button and it'll go and open that in the inquiry screen. And there we go, it's opening that in the inquiry screen, and it'll go and include the full history if we so desire, and then we can simply double click and we can get back to the original source document. That original source document, you saw there was a paperclip there, so we can go and see the original source document. The next page down is what we call terms, so we can set up the terms for the particular vendor. In this case, we pay the vendor by EFT, so we can store their BSB and account number, and then we've got the SWIFT code if we're paying them overseas, and we can set them to be automatically for EFT or BPay. We can set the credit limit, so we can put a credit limit on the particular vendor if we have a credit limit, and we can put them on credit stop if we've been put on credit stop. Transactions, we can go and look at the current transactions for that vendor. History, we can go back to day dot. Every single transaction we've ever done with that vendor, we can go back and look at. Once again, we can double click and drill down on the particular transactions. If we want to look at everything that we've done with that vendor, for example, over the last 3 months, we could go and look at 3 months, and here's all the products or services we've purchased off that particular vendor over the last 3 months. And we can go and look at that pie column. In this case, cutlery sets, we've purchased 2,200 sets. And we've currently got 204 in stock, and the last time we purchased it was on the 7th of February. We've also got the ability to come down here to the purchases, so we can go and look at all the purchases, and once again we can include history and go back and look at all the historical data. Same drill down functionality. Keywords and notes, I've got the ability to go and keep keywords and notes on a particular vendor. If I wanted to go in and make some notes at a particular date, come in here, change the size. I can say, yeah, look, I need to make that highlighted. I want to change the color, and I could have that stand out if there's a particular reason I want to highlight some notes on that vendor. Anywhere we have keywords and notes, whether that be on employees, job projects, inventory, clients, vendors, general ledger, we've got the ability to make those notes. Multi-address, the vendor may have multiple addresses. Once again, if I double click, I can go and look at all those multi-addresses for that particular vendor. If we come down here, we've got the period balances, so we can go and look at all our period balances for that particular vendor. And here we've got all those historical balances going back a number of years. And then we come down here to job projects, so we can look at all the jobs that we've used that particular vendor on, so it keeps a historical record. Email log, every time we send an email to the vendor, we'll have an email log stored within the Sapphire One application. Actions, I can add unlimited actions to that particular vendor. For example, here, we'll go and add an action note, for example, here. And we'll give it a particular type, and we'll say here, and the drop down will say we need to follow up on that particular vendor as the action type. We'll add that to our list. We want to give a note that we're going to do this on the 27th at 10 AM as an example. And that will automatically pop up in our calendar. So if we green tick that now and save out of here, and we come over to the Sapphire One calendar, we'll notice here that we've got a note on the 27th. We can go back in and edit that, and it'll link it back to the note that we've just made. We can also invite attendees if we wished. So if we wanted to add a attendee to that meeting, we can go and add an attendee. It might be an employee in our company, so we'll go and search for that employee. We add them in, and then we can send them an invite. So we go and send an invite, and they can accept or reject that, and so we'll know that they've accepted that for the particular action. If we close out of here now and we go back into payables, the other way that we can access the payables menu is selecting the drop down here, and we can go to vendors from the palette as well. So if we double click here, and we can do so a number of ways: accounts mode, inventory mode, job projects, and also via the palette. As we saw earlier, we've got documents, so we can store as many documents as we like for the particular vendor, and we can store unlimited pictures for that particular vendor as well. So we can store pictures for the vendor file. We've got our documents. If we green tick now, it'll take us out to a standard vendor inquiry. I have the ability to switch here, so I can say swap to inquiry. So we can come down here and we can say I can swap out, and I may want to, for example, come out here, and I want to swap to go to setup here, and I want to change that address to the total due. So I'll come down here and we'll look for that field within the table, total owing. So we select that. I'll just do that again. We go down here and we select total owing for that particular vendor. There we go, total owing. and we've selected total owing now. We go and select total owing and you'll see that column's automatically changed. Now we can sort that column, so we can go and sort that. And I've also got the ability here to drag that around. So this is changing the view for you as a user. So whenever you go into a custom inquiry in any inquiry screen and change the view, and we save out of there now, or close out, and we go back into a payables, and this way we'll come back in through the palette, and we go back into the view, it'll store that particular view for us. So in this case, we've got the name and the total owing. We're going to move the ID over here, and we might want to have the contact over here beside the total owing. And we might want to change the ID here. So we go back into the setup, and where it's currently got the ID, we may want to select the phone number. So now we've added the phone number, and then simply gone and added that. So you as a user have the ability to modify every single inquiry screen. And in this case, we're modifying a vendor inquiry, but we could do that on any inquiry screen. And you have access to all the fields within that particular table. In this case, we're in the vendor table, and we've got access to all the fields. So the way we do that is we simply click on here, and there's all the fields in the vendor table. So example, big list, very simple to go and select what one you want, and we can go in and select that. In this case, we've got the second field displaying on the vendor inquiry screen as total owing. We've also got the ability to change the row height, so if we wanted to make that a little bit bigger, we could go and make that bigger, click OK, and it'll simply change the size of the row height. And we've got that ability to drag them around and do whatever we want here. Thank you for taking the time to watch the vendor inquiry within the Sapphire One application from Accounts Mode. Thank you.